The stars looked different from this part of the galaxy. Captain Alan Grant stood on the bridge of the Earth Alliance vessel Intrepid *, his eyes fixed on the main view screen. A massive ringed planet loomed ahead, orbited by 7 moons of varying sizes. The third moon, glowing with artificial light on its night side, was their destination. "Approaching Vorax Prime Station, Captain," said Lieutenant Joe Kelly from the pilot station. "Their orbital control is requesting our identification again." Grant nodded. "Send it. Third time's the charm, I suppose." This was humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Vorax civilization. Discovery of their extensive empire had been accidental. A routine exploration vessel had stumbled upon one of their outposts 3 months ago. Initial communications had been tense, but ultimately productive enough to arrange this meeting. "They're stalling," said Dr. Lisa Miller as she joined Grant at the view screen. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, her uniform crisp despite the 18-hour journey from the jump point. As the mission's lead xenobiologist, she had spent weeks studying the limited data they had on Vorax biology. They'd had plenty of time to verify our credentials. "Agreed," Grant said quietly. "But we play nice. Earth needs allies out here, not enemies." The communications panel chimed. Lieutenant Kelly raised an eyebrow as he listened to his earpiece. "Captain, we're cleared to dock. They're sending approach vectors now." "Well, that's progress," Grant said. "Senior staff to the briefing room in 20 minutes. We need to review protocols one more time before we meet our hosts." The briefing room was small but comfortable. Grant sat at the head of the oval table as his 6 senior officers filed in. Dr. Miller took the seat to his right, followed by Security Chief Ben Adams, a former Marine with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and watchful eyes. Communications Officer Susan Wright, Engineer Sam Cooper, Medical Officer Diane Morgan, and Lieutenant Kelly completed the circle. The Vorax representative who contacted Earth described their society as the pinnacle of galactic evolution. Grant began. "Intelligence suggests they control at least 17 star systems and have subjugated at least 2 other sentient species." "Friendly bunch," Adams muttered. Dr. Miller activated the room's holographic projector. An image of a Vorax appeared, tall, with iridescent scaled skin, 4 arms, and a triangular head featuring 3 yellow eyes arranged in a vertical line. "Physically, they're impressive," she explained. "Stronger than humans, with redundant organ systems and natural armor. Their civilization is approximately 300 years ahead of ours technologically, particularly in weapons technology." "So, why are we here?" Kelly asked. "If they're so advanced, what do they want with us?" "Knowledge," Grant replied. Their messages expressed particular interest in how quickly humanity expanded from 1 planet to 12 colonies in less than a century. They seemed to find our adaptability unusual. Dr. Morgan tapped her medical tablet. "I've analyzed their biological data. Despite their advantages, they have an extremely low birth rate and long maturation period. It takes a Vorax child nearly 30 years to reach adulthood." "Which explains their interest in faster-growing species," Miller added. The ship's AI announced their imminent docking with Vorax Prime Station. Grant stood, straightening his uniform. "Remember, we represent all of humanity here. Our mission is peaceful exchange. But keep your eyes open. Adams, your security team will remain on high alert." "Always do, Captain." As they walked toward the airlock, Susan Wright fell into step beside Grant. "Captain, something feels off about this. Their communications have been oddly formal, even for first contact protocols." Grant nodded. "I know. Stay sharp and keep your emergency beacon handy." The airlock cycled open to reveal 3 Vorax officials waiting in the docking tube. Their height was even more impressive in person. The shortest stood over 7 feet tall. All wore elaborate metallic garments that seemed both decorative and functional. The central figure stepped forward. "I am Supreme Commander Zex Kaltar. Welcome to Vorax space, humans." The translator rendered his voice in flat, emotionless tones. Your journey to become acquainted with your betters has begun. Grant maintained his diplomatic smile despite the veiled insult. On behalf of the Earth Alliance, we look forward to establishing peaceful relations between our peoples. The Supreme Commander's upper eyes narrowed slightly. Yes, we shall see what your species has to offer ours. As they were escorted deeper into the station, Grant caught Lisa Miller's concerned glance. The Voraks weren't even trying to hide their sense of superiority. This mission was going to be much more. The dining hall of Vorak's Prime Station gleamed with polished metal and strange glowing stones. Captain Grant and his team sat at a long table across from their Voraks hosts. The room was uncomfortably warm for the humans, but they didn't complain. This dinner was meant to be the formal beginning of diplomatic talks. Your species consumes animal tissue, Supreme Commander Zex Kalter observed as servers brought out plates of food. Primitive, but not unexpected. Dr. Lisa Miller smiled politely. We're omnivores. Our bodies evolved to process both plant and animal nutrients. Inefficient, said another Vorax official. Our bodies synthesize nutrients from basic mineral compounds and light. Grant noticed how the servers, members of a shorter blue-skinned species, kept their eyes down and moved quickly. They seemed afraid. Something wasn't right about this place. Tell me, Captain, Zex Kalter said, how many warships does your Earth Alliance possess? Our fleet serves primarily for exploration and defense, Grant answered carefully. We're more interested in sharing cultural and scientific knowledge than comparing military strength. A diplomatic non-answer. The Supreme Commander replied. Smart, for a lesser species. Security Chief Adams tensed beside Grant, but a small shake of the captain's head kept him quiet. The insults were becoming more obvious. Lieutenant Kelly spoke up, trying to change the subject. Your station's design is impressive. The gravitational controls are more stable than anything we've developed. Of course they are, Zex Kalter said. Now about your defensive capabilities. A soft beep from Susan Wright's pocket made her check her communications device. Her eyes widened slightly, but she kept her expression neutral. She leaned toward Grant. Captain, she whispered, the Intrepid just reported unusual energy readings around the station. They think the Voraks are powering up weapons. Grant nodded almost imperceptibly. He stood slowly, raising a glass. Supreme Commander, I propose a toast to new beginnings between our peoples. The Voraks officials rose as well, their movements suddenly tense. Zex Kalter's three eyes blinked in sequence. Yes, new beginnings. Though perhaps not the kind you imagined. The doors slid open. Armed Vorak soldiers poured into the room, weapons raised. Now, Grant shouted. Adams moved instantly, flipping the heavy table upward for cover. Dr. Morgan threw a small device into the air that burst with blinding light. The human delegation scrambled for the side exit. This was a trap from the start, Miller said as they ran down a corridor. Split up, Grant ordered. Susan, get back to the ship if you can. The rest of you, find alternate escape routes. What about you, Captain? Kelly asked. I'll draw them off. Go. Susan Wright and Engineer Cooper broke off toward the docking bay. The others scattered in different directions. Grant turned down a main corridor, intentionally making noise to attract attention. 3 Vorak soldiers spotted him. Halt, human. Grant ducked into a maintenance tunnel, the narrow space giving him an advantage over the larger aliens. He contacted the ship. Intrepid, this is Grant. We're under attack. Prepare for emergency launch. Captain, we're detecting multiple weapon locks, came the reply. They've surrounded us. Grant heard heavy footsteps approaching. He was running out of options. On the other side of the station, Susan Wright and Sam Cooper reached a service airlock. The main docking bay is blocked, Cooper said, but we can reach the emergency shuttles this way. We need to warn Earth, Susan said. This wasn't just a failed diplomatic mission. The Voraks were gathering intelligence for an attack. They boarded a small maintenance pod and detached from the station, just as alarms began blaring throughout Vorax Prime. As they pulled away, they saw the Intrepid surrounded by Vorax vessels, trapped. "Can we help them?" Cooper asked. Susan shook her head. "Not directly. Our best hope is to escape and send a warning." Their small pod accelerated away from the station. Behind them, they saw energy weapons fire on the Intrepid. The Earth ship returned fire briefly before its engines went dark. In the station's command center, Supreme Commander Zex Kaltar watched as his forces secured the human vessel and rounded up the diplomats. He noticed a small blip escaping the station but wasn't concerned. It wouldn't get far. He opened a channel to Earth using the human communication protocols they had studied. His message was brief. "People of Earth, your pathetic diplomatic effort has failed. Your representatives are now prisoners of the Vorax Empire. Your technology will be absorbed. Your planets will submit or be destroyed. Well done. You just picked a fight with the wrong species." Vice Admiral Frank Carter stood perfectly still as the Vorax message played on the main screen of Earth Alliance headquarters. The room was silent. 20 high-ranking military and government officials watched the alien commander's threat with faces that showed anger, fear, and determination. "Well done. You just picked a fight with the wrong species." The Vorax commander's final words hung in the air as the screen went dark. "How long ago was this received?" Carter asked. 43 minutes ago, sir," replied the communications officer. "It came through the Deep Space Relay Network. We also detected a partial emergency signal from the Intrepid before it went silent." Carter turned to face the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, as of this moment, we are at war. The Vorax have taken our people prisoner and threatened our worlds. I am initiating Protocol Thunderbolt." Protocol Thunderbolt was Earth's contingency plan for hostile first contact. It had been created after humanity's first brush with alien aggression 50 years earlier, but had never been activated until now. "Send alert status to all colonies and military bases," Carter ordered. "I want every ship we have on high alert, and all civilian vessels to begin safety protocols." In another part of the building, scientists Kevin Hughes and Linda Barnes watched the recorded message in their lab. They had been studying Vorax technology based on the limited data from earlier encounters. "They're overconfident," Kevin said, replaying the message. "Look at the commander's posture and eye movements. They truly believe we're no threat to them." Linda nodded. "Their technology is advanced, but they've had no serious competition for centuries. That makes them vulnerable." Kevin pulled up the scans from the first contact report. "Their ships use a form of quantum field propulsion we haven't mastered yet. But look here," he pointed to an energy signature. "Their weapons draw from the same power source. If we can disrupt one, we might affect both." At the command center, Military Commander Olivia Benson was already assembling response teams. "The 7th Fleet is closest to Vorax space. They can deploy within 12 hours. The question is, what kind of resistance will they face?" Carter studied the star charts. "We don't go in blind. First, we need intelligence, and we might have some help already in place." Far away, on the third moon of the ringed planet, Susan Wright and Sam Cooper had crash-landed their escape pod in a rocky canyon. The small craft had taken damage escaping the Vorax station, forcing them to land on the nearest solid ground. "Communications are fried," Cooper said, examining the pod systems. "We can't reach Earth from here." Susan looked out at the barren landscape. "Any sign of pursuit?" "Not yet. I think they're focused on the Intrepid and the main diplomatic team. They probably assume we'll die out here anyway." Susan checked their supplies. "We have enough oxygen and water for 2 weeks if we're careful, but we need to find a way to contact Earth or get off this moon." Cooper pointed to his scanner. "There's a small Vorax outpost about 15 miles north. It might have communication equipment we could use. Or we could find something even more valuable," Susan said. "Intelligence about their defenses, their plans. If we're going to help our people, we need to know what we're up against." As they prepared to leave the crash site, Susan spotted movement in the sky. A small Vorax patrol ship was scanning the area. "They're looking for survivors," Cooper whispered. "They know someone got away." They took cover behind rocks as the ship passed overhead. When it was gone, Susan pulled out a small device from her pocket, a standard-issue Earth Alliance emergency beacon. "I'm going to modify this," she said. "If I can tune it to a specific frequency, we might be able to send a short burst message that only Earth ships would recognize." Cooper nodded. "And while we're at it, we should gather any useful intelligence we can. The Vorax think they've won already. They won't expect humans to fight back." On the Vorax station, Captain Grant was led into a detention cell. His hands were bound, and a bruise was forming on his face where a guard had struck him. In cells nearby, he could see other members of his crew. "You are now subjects for study," a Vorax scientist told them. "Your resistance is noted but futile. The Supreme Commander has already informed your people of their coming subjugation." Grant said nothing, but his eyes showed no fear. The Vorax hadn't searched him thoroughly. The small tracking device embedded under his skin was still active, sending its signal. If any Earth ships came looking, they would find him. And he knew they would come. The Vorax had made a serious mistake. They didn't understand humans at all. Dr. Lisa Miller kept her face calm as the Vorax scientist circled around her. She sat in a small white room that served as both laboratory and interrogation chamber. Her hands were bound to the chair, but her mind remained free. "Your species is physically unimpressive," the scientist said. His name was Vextor, and he seemed to be in charge of studying the human prisoners. "Weak muscle structure, limited sensory capacity, inefficient respiratory system. Yet here we are, traveling between stars just like you," Lisa replied. Vextor made a clicking sound that might have been amusement. "A temporary achievement. Your civilization will be properly absorbed into the Vorax Empire. Those who resist will be eliminated." Another Vorax entered the room. This one wore the markings of a medical officer. "Supreme Commander Zex Kalter requests progress on the human physiology study," he said. "Tell him we have begun tissue sampling," Vextor replied. "The humans are remarkably resistant to our standard sedatives, but we are adjusting the compounds." When they both turned away to examine a screen, Lisa tested her restraints again. They were tight, but she had noticed something interesting. The material expanded slightly when heated and contracted when cooled. The room's temperature fluctuated periodically, probably adjusted for Vorax comfort. In a nearby cell, Captain Grant was having his own problems. Two guards watched him constantly as he paced the small space. They had taken his uniform and given him a plain gray covering that itched against his skin. "The human doesn't sleep much," one guard said to the other in their language, not realizing Grant had been learning Vorax words through careful observation. "They are primitive. They require frequent rest cycles," the other replied. Grant continued pacing, hiding his growing understanding. The universal translator they had confiscated wasn't perfect, but it had given him a basic foundation in their language before they took it. Now he was building on that knowledge. 3 cells down, Lieutenant Joe Kelly was doing push-ups. The guards found this behavior strange and watched with interest. Kelly had been doing exercises regularly, leading the Vorax to believe humans needed constant physical movement. In reality, he was checking every inch of his cell floor for weaknesses. "They underestimate us," Kelly whispered to Security Chief Adams in the next cell when the guards stepped away briefly. "They think we're just scared animals." "Good," Adams whispered back. "Fear is an advantage when your enemy has it, or when they think you do." In yet another part of the station, Dr. Diane Morgan was put to work in a medical facility. The Vorax had discovered she was a physician and decided her skills might be useful treating the minor injuries some humans had sustained during capture. "Fix your people," a Vorax supervisor told her, handing her a limited set of tools. "We want them healthy for study." Morgan nodded obediently, but as she treated a cut on a crew member's arm, she whispered, "They're vulnerable to high-frequency sound." I watched one of them react badly when a device malfunctioned. Pass it along. Meanwhile, on the moon's surface, Susan Wright and Sam Cooper had reached the outskirts of the small Vorax outpost. Hidden behind a ridge of rocks, they observed the facility through binoculars. 5 guards that I can see, Cooper said. The main building has a communication array on top. Susan nodded. And look at their patrol pattern. They're only checking the perimeter every 30 minutes. Sloppy, Cooper said. They don't expect threats here, Susan replied. This is their territory. They feel safe. As night fell on the moon, they noticed something else. The Vorax guards use powerful lights during their patrols. Their night vision must be poor, Susan said. They're completely dependent on artificial light. Cooper smiled. That's another weakness we can use. Back on Earth, Vice Admiral Carter received the first report from the science team. The Vorax ships use a unique energy signature, Linda Barnes explained. We believe we can track them through hyperspace by following quantum disturbances they leave behind. Can we use that to find our people? Carter asked. Kevin Hughes nodded. We've already started scanning. And we found something else. A very faint emergency beacon signal coming from the third moon of the Vorax homeworld. Carter's expression hardened with determination. Then we have a starting point. Prepare the rescue fleet. In his private quarters, Supreme Commander Zex Calter reviewed the reports on the human prisoners. Something bothered him about their behavior. They showed fear, yes, but not the right kind of fear. Not the breaking kind. They're planning something, he muttered to himself. But it doesn't matter. They are too few, too weak, and too far from home to be a threat. The Earth Alliance fleet moved silently through space. 5 warships, led by the heavy cruiser Defiant traveled in a tight formation. Their engines were running in stealth mode, making them nearly invisible to standard scanners. On the bridge of the Defiant Vice Admiral Carter studied the tactical display. Status report, he ordered. We're approaching the outer defense perimeter of Vorax space, reported the tactical officer. No sign they've detected us yet. Carter nodded. Remember, this is a rescue mission first. We locate our people, extract them, and then withdraw. We're not ready for a full-scale war. The science officer looked up from her station. Sir, we're picking up that emergency beacon again. It's coming from the third moon, just as we thought. Any sign of the Intrepid asterisk? Yes, sir. It appears to be docked at the main station orbiting the planet. Carter's face showed grim determination. Then we have 2 targets. Prepare the strike teams. On the moon's surface, Susan Wright and Sam Cooper had successfully infiltrated the Vorax outpost. Moving during the brief period between guard patrols, they had slipped into the main building through a maintenance hatch. The communications center should be 1 level up, Susan whispered, checking a rough map they'd drawn from observation. Cooper nodded, keeping watch as they moved through dimly lit corridors. They had discovered that the Vorax kept interior lights low to conserve energy, another advantage for the humans with their better night vision. Wait, Cooper said suddenly, pulling Susan into a side room. Voices approached, speaking in the clicking Vorax language. They're saying something about increased patrols. Susan translated using the limited Vorax language she had learned during the diplomatic mission. They're expecting visitors. Earth forces. Cooper asked hopefully. I think so. We need to get to that communications array now. At the Vorax space station, Dr. Lisa Miller had managed to loosen her restraints during a heating cycle in her cell. The guards checked on her only once every hour, giving her a small window of opportunity. When the door slid open for the regular check, she pretended to be asleep. The guard stepped closer. In one swift motion, Lisa broke free and pressed a small medical device she had hidden against the guard's neck. The Vorax collapsed instantly. The sedative works on them better than it does on us, she muttered, taking the guard's access card. She slipped out into the corridor. In the detention block, Captain Grant had also been planning his move. For days, he had been fooling the guards into thinking he was weaker than he really was, pretending to struggle with the station's higher gravity. When alarms suddenly blared throughout the station, Grant knew something had happened. The guards outside his cell became agitated, speaking quickly to each other. "Station defenses activated," one said. "Unknown vessels approaching." Grant smiled. Earth had come for them. The guard entered his cell to secure him, and Grant made his move. Using strength the Vorax didn't know he possessed, he tackled the guard and knocked him unconscious. Throughout the station, other imprisoned humans began their own rebellions. Dr. Morgan had fashioned a device that emitted a high-pitched sound that disoriented the Vorax. Security Chief Adams had picked the lock on his cell using materials from his broken belt buckle. In the Vorax Command Center, Supreme Commander Zex Kalter received urgent reports from multiple sectors. Human ships approaching from Sector 4. An officer reported. 5 vessels, heavily armed. "Deploy the defense fleet," Zex Kalter ordered. "They cannot hope to match our technology." "Commander," another officer interrupted, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from the human ships. They're not matching any known weapons signature." On the bridge of the Asterisk, Defiant Asterisk, Carter gave the order to deploy their secret weapon. Activate the quantum disruptors. Scientists Kevin Hughes and Linda Barnes had worked tirelessly to develop technology that could interfere with Vorax propulsion systems. Now, energy beams shot out from the Earth ships, not targeting the Vorax vessels directly but instead creating a field around them. "Their engines are stalling," reported the tactical officer. "The disruptors are working." The massive Vorax warships began drifting, their main weapon systems flickering as power fluctuated throughout their ships. "Now," Carter ordered, "launch the rescue teams." Small, fast shuttles shot out from the Earth vessels, heading toward both the station and the Moon's surface. In the communications center of the Moon outpost, Susan and Cooper watched the space battle on monitors. They had managed to take control of the facility without raising an alarm, using the Vorax vulnerability to darkness to their advantage. "It's working," Susan said, watching the Vorax ships struggle against the quantum disruption. "Earth actually found a way to counter their technology." Cooper nodded, sending targeting data to the Earth fleet. "The Vorax made one crucial mistake." "What's that?" Susan asked. "They assumed technological superiority meant they would win. They never considered that adaptability might be more important than advanced weapons." Supreme Commander Zex Kaltar watched in disbelief as his mighty warships drifted helplessly. The human vessels were smaller, less advanced, yet somehow they had neutralized the Vorax fleet's main systems. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Their technology is inferior." "We don't know, Commander," his science officer replied. "They're using some kind of field that interferes with our quantum drives." Zex Kaltar's 3 eyes narrowed in fury. "Launch all fighter craft. Call in reinforcements from the outer colonies. I want those human ships destroyed." But the commander was making a critical error. By focusing all his attention on the space battle, he had left the station vulnerable. Captain Grant moved swiftly through the corridors of the Vorax station. He had freed 10 other crew members, and they were making their way to the docking bay where the Intrepid Asterisk was held. "The Vorax are in chaos," Security Chief Adams reported, joining Grant at an intersection. "Most of their security personnel have been called to defend against the Earth fleet." "Good," Grant said. "Where's Dr. Miller?" "Here," Lisa called, appearing from a side passage with Dr. Morgan and 2 other crew members. "We found something important in their research lab. They've been studying other alien species besides humans. Some are being held captive on this station." Grant nodded. "We'll need to help them too, but first, we need our ship back." They encountered little resistance as they approached the docking bay. Most Vorax were occupied with the attack. The few guards they met were quickly overwhelmed by the determined humans. Lieutenant Kelly had reached the Intrepid Asterisk first, and was already working to restore its systems. "They didn't damage her much," he reported when Grant arrived. "They were more interested in studying our technology than destroying it." How long until we can launch? Grant asked. 20 minutes, maybe less, Kelly replied. Grant turned to Dr. Miller. Show me where these other prisoners are being held. We might need allies. In Earth's rescue shuttle approaching the station, Engineer Paul Martinez monitored the quantum disruptor field they had deployed. The Vorac's are adapting, he reported to the team leader. Their ships are starting to create counterfields. We have maybe 30 minutes before they neutralize our advantage. That should be enough time, the team leader replied. Our job is to dock with the station, find our people, and get out. Vice Admiral Carter will handle the space battle. On the Asterisk, Defiant Asterisk, Carter was indeed managing the battle with calm precision. The Earth ships maintained their formation, keeping the disruptor field focused on the main Vorac's fleet. Sir, we're detecting more Vorax ships coming from the outer system, the tactical officer reported. Hold position, Carter ordered. Our people need time. Back on the moon, Susan Wright and Sam Cooper had turned the Vorax outpost's weapons against its owners. Using the facility's defense systems, they were keeping Vorax reinforcements at bay while providing tactical data to the Earth fleet. Look at this, Cooper said, pointing to a console screen. These are the Vorax command protocols. Their entire fleet operates on a centralized control system. Susan studied the information. That's why they're so slow to adapt. Every tactical decision has to go through their chain of command. No individual ship captain can act on their own. A serious weakness, Cooper noted. Our captains have much more autonomy. Meanwhile, Captain Grant and Dr. Miller had reached the secured section of the station. Inside were holding cells containing aliens of various species. They looked weak and defeated. These must be representatives from worlds the Vorax conquered, Miller said. Grant approached a cell containing a tall, thin alien with 4 arms and silver skin. We're not with the Vorax, he explained slowly, hoping the universal translator was working. We're prisoners too, but we're escaping. We can help you. The alien's large eyes widened. You fight the Vorax. They said no one opposes them. They were wrong, Grant replied. We're humans, from Earth, and we never surrender to bullies. As Grant and Miller freed the captive aliens, a new alarm sounded throughout the station. A voice announced that Earth rescue shuttles had breached the outer defenses. On the bridge of his flagship, Supreme Commander Zex Calter made a desperate decision. Send all available ships to the station. Deploy the experimental weapons. Nothing leaves that station. The Vorax second-in-command looked concerned. But Commander, the experimental weapons are untested. They could damage the station itself. I don't care, Zex Calter shouted. I will not be defeated by a primitive species. Little did he know that his panicked orders were exactly what Vice Admiral Carter had hoped for. By pulling ships away from their organized formation, the Vorax commander was creating gaps in his defense that the Earth ships could exploit. The freed alien prisoners moved quickly through the station corridors alongside Captain Grant and his crew. There were 12 aliens from 5 different species, all victims of Vorax expansion. My people are the Solari, explained the silver-skinned alien who had first spoken to Grant. His name was Nix, and he had been a scientist before his capture. The Vorax invaded our system 3 cycles ago. They took our technology and forced many of us to serve them. Same with my kind, said another alien with blue scales and 4 eyes. We are the Kelth. We were once traders until the Vorax decided they wanted our star maps. As they hurried toward the docking bay, Dr. Miller asked, how many other species have they conquered? At least 7 that we know of, Nix answered. But not all willingly serve. Many wait for a chance to fight back. Grant saw an opportunity forming. Then today might be that chance. They reached the docking bay where the Intrepid Asterisk was being prepared for launch. Lieutenant Kelly had restored the main systems, and the ship was nearly ready. Captain, Kelly called from the entry ramp. Earth rescue shuttles have docked on the lower levels. They're fighting their way up to us now. Grant turned to the freed aliens. We could use your help. You know the station better than we do. Nix nodded. The Vorax have communication stations throughout the habitat ring. If we could access them, we could send messages to our homeworlds. And to the other slaves on Vorax ships, added the Kelf. Many would turn against their masters if they knew resistance was possible. Grant made a quick decision. Dr. Morgan, take 5 of our people and help Nix reach those communication stations. The rest of us will secure the Intrepid and coordinate with the rescue teams. On the moon's surface, Susan Wright and Sam Cooper were under attack. Vorax reinforcements had arrived at the outpost, trying to reclaim it. We can't hold them off much longer, Cooper said, firing a captured Vorax weapon at the approaching forces. Susan worked frantically at the communication console. I've almost got it. If I can upload this virus to their network, it will scramble their targeting systems. The virus had been created by Earth scientists based on the data Susan and Cooper had transmitted earlier. It was designed to exploit the centralized nature of Vorax command systems. Hurry, Cooper urged as a blast shook the building. Done, Susan announced. She grabbed her weapon and joined Cooper at the barricade. Now we just need to hold out until our shuttle arrives. In space, Vice Admiral Carter watched as the tide of battle shifted. Many Vorax ships were suddenly firing at random targets, including their own vessels. The virus is working, his communications officer reported. Their systems are compromised. Good, Carter replied. Now push forward. I want a clear extraction path for our people. On the Vorax command ship, Supreme Commander Zex Kaltar was losing control of the situation. Reports flooded in from all directions. Station security breached. Prisoners escaped. Communication systems failing. Targeting computers malfunctioning. Zex Kaltar slammed his fist on the control panel. This is impossible. They are savages. How are they doing this? His second-in-command approached cautiously. Commander, we are receiving strange transmissions on all channels. Messages in multiple languages calling for revolt against the Empire. Block them, Zex Kaltar ordered. We cannot. Our communication control is not responding. In the habitat ring of the station, Dr. Morgan and Nix had successfully reached the main communication hub. Nix worked quickly, sending messages to all Vorax-controlled worlds. People of the subjugated worlds, the message began. The Vorax Empire is vulnerable. Humans from Earth have defeated their fleet. Rise up now and reclaim your freedom. Throughout Vorax space, the message spread. On ships, space stations, and colony worlds, the enslaved species heard the call to rebellion. Many had been waiting years for this moment. On the Intrepid Captain Grant and his crew had reunited with the Earth rescue team. The ship's engines hummed to life as they prepared to depart. What about the others? Grant asked, thinking of Dr. Morgan's team. They'll take the rescue shuttle, Adams replied. They're almost done at the communication hub. Lieutenant Kelly monitored the sensors. Captain, you need to see this. All across the station, there's fighting breaking out. It's not just our people. The service workers, the maintenance crews, they're all rising up against the Vorax. Grant nodded. It's not just a rescue mission anymore. It's become a revolution. On the main view screen, they could see Vorax ships firing on each other as confused commands, and the computer virus wreaked havoc on their coordinated defenses. Sometimes, Grant said quietly, the most powerful weapon isn't technology. It's hope. 3 months after the battle at Vorax Prime, a new gathering took place in the Grand Council chamber of Earth Alliance headquarters. Representatives from 7 different alien species sat around a large circular table. Humans, Solari, Kelth, and others who had suffered under Vorax rule were now meeting as equals. Captain Alan Grant, newly promoted to Admiral, stood at the podium. Today marks the formal creation of the Interstellar Cooperative, he announced. Not an empire, not a hierarchy, but a true partnership between our worlds. The chamber erupted in applause. The revolution that had begun that day on the Vorax station had spread quickly throughout their empire. Without their centralized command structure, the Vorax military had crumbled against simultaneous uprisings on dozens of worlds. The Vorax believed that technological superiority was all that mattered, Grant continued. They never understood that diversity, adaptation, and cooperation are far more powerful in the long run. Vice Admiral Carter, seated in the front row, nodded in agreement. The Earth Alliance fleet had eventually returned home, but not before helping to liberate key Vorax-controlled worlds. Earth scientists had shared their quantum disruptor technology with former subject species, ensuring no single power could dominate the others. After the ceremony, Susan Wright and Sam Cooper received special commendations for their actions on the moon. Their intelligence work and bravery had played a crucial role in the victory. "What will you do now?" Dr. Lisa Miller asked them at the reception afterward. "I've been assigned to the diplomatic corps," Susan replied. "I'll be working with the Solari to establish cultural exchange programs." Cooper smiled. "I'm helping design a new emergency communication system based on what we learned about Vorax technology. No one should ever be stranded without a way to call for help again." Dr. Miller had her own new project. With Dr. Morgan, she was leading a medical research team studying the biology of different species. "We've already found treatments for diseases that have plagued the kelp for centuries," she said proudly. Lieutenant Kelly joined them, carrying a small data pad. "Have you seen the reports from the border?" he asked. "The Vorax have withdrawn completely to their home system. Their remaining ships patrol their borders but haven't attempted to expand again." In a secure meeting room away from the celebration, Admiral Grant sat across from a very different visitor, Supreme Commander Zex Kaltar, now simply Ambassador Zex Kaltar, represented what remained of Vorax authority. His once elaborate uniform was now simple, his manner subdued. "Your terms are acceptable," the Vorax said reluctantly. "The Vorax Empire." He paused, correcting himself. "The Vorax Republic will honor the boundaries established by the treaty." Grant nodded. "And the reparations to the worlds your people conquered? They will be paid as agreed," Zex Kaltar replied, "though it will take decades to fulfill our obligation." As the formalities concluded and Zex Kaltar prepared to leave, he paused at the door. "There is one thing I do not understand, human." "What's that?" Grant asked. "How did you do it? You had inferior ships, inferior weapons, inferior numbers. By all logical measures, you should have been easily defeated." Grant considered the question carefully before answering. "You studied our technology, but not our history. Humans have rarely been the strongest species on our own planet. We didn't evolve to be the biggest or the strongest. We evolved to adapt, to solve problems, to work together, and to never, ever give up." He stepped closer to the former commander. "You thought technological superiority was enough, but no technology can match the power of a determined mind that refuses to accept defeat." Zex Kaltar's three eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought in Vorax body language. "You know, when I sent that message to Earth, I truly believed we were the superior species. I told your people they had picked a fight with the wrong species." Grant smiled slightly. "Yes, that's precisely what you did." "I was correct," Zex Kaltar said quietly, "but not in the way I intended. You were indeed the wrong species to threaten." As the Vorax departed, Grant returned to the main celebration. He found his old crew gathered together, along with their new allies from across the stars. They had come through darkness into a new dawn of cooperation. Security Chief Adams raised his glass in a toast. "To humanity," he said. Dr. Miller gently corrected him, gesturing to their alien friends. "To all of us. Different worlds, different bodies, but the same desire for freedom." Grant nodded and raised his own glass. "To the future we'll build together. Because that's the greatest strength any species can have, not conquering others, but learning from them."